resilient city is able to absorb, adapt, and recover from potential shocks and stresses, transforming itself in a positive way towards sustainability. Cities are composed of interconnected environmental, social, cultural, and economic systems of services, which play a key role in maintaining a well-functioning whole. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the importance of local and regional governments' capacity to maintain and improve the care, services, and attention provided to communities. In order to support resilience-based, sustainable, and inclusive development, UCLG, UN Habitat, and UNDRR have developed the Resilience Learning Modules. Building on real experiences, the modules integrate principles of action learning and gamification. Through lectures, exercises, and games, you will analyze critical stakeholders, sectors, and resources. You will learn how social, cultural, and economic policies need to be part of cross-cutting strategies to leave no one behind. How to build resilience in urban areas, including informal settlements, through spatial planning and physical risk reduction measures. How to integrate the multiple benefits of ecosystems with regional approaches and nature-based solutions. How to develop governance mechanisms for response and recovery in line with the principle of building back better. The modules underline the role of local and regional government associations to push for an enabling environment at the national and international levels to support locally sensitive resilience strategies. Localizing the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction and making cities resilient will be critical to achieve Agenda 2030 and foster the transformation we need, starting now. Join us.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to our speakers and also welcome to the participants that may join us online today in the context of this important Innovative Cities Conference. We would today like to use the momentum. We of course, it has been said a lot of times, we celebrate the Resilience Day, we commemorate, and we look into the future with our resilience strategies as organizations. So for us, the opportunity today is that we would like to launch a resilience module that we have been developing together with many of you. So we as United Cities and local government, we are of course the largest organization of cities, but we are also an organization that works very decentralized and very connected. So we are usually co-creating with our members, with regional sections, with cities, with partners, all our work. And as the local and regional governments are at the forefront of climate action, resilience building, and sustainability, this was said many times during these days, we are committed to the action. We work with the Covenant of Mayors, we work with the Resilience Making Cities 2030 initiative, and we work, of course, with our partners, United Nations Habitat and United Nations disaster reduction strategies. So we have not only gathering members in order to look at this campaign during the past years, we also have been listening to our members, because the campaign was of course a very flexible instrument, and now the strategy making cities resilience is even more. The instrument is thought to bring local knowledge to inspire other local knowledge. So it is much more action oriented, and together with UNDRR and UN Habitat, we have been really looking into so many practices that we could raise from our members, and with this inform and convert them into pedagogical moment, which we will show you later. So maybe when we can look at resilience, of course, resilience is also at the core of our recovery agenda. We are in the middle of the pandemic, and the acceleration of the global agendas is very important. I think maybe now we can say, we call it even emergency governance. So this means we are really accelerating localization, we are accelerating the call for financing, the call for action, and local government are really, really very, very active and very busy to mitigate impact of disasters, impact of COVID, impact of climate change, and build a better future. So we as UCLG, we take this up. We have, of course, our policy work. So the Pact for the Future, which we are constructing, and we will launch a document in our Congress end of next year. We are looking into this pact with a very strong link to resilience, with a strong link to look for this other future we want, but not only look into how it looks like, but how we get there. So for me, the most important point is here to drive a little bit the back. I don't know if Madame Fatimetou is already connected. Can we get a sign from Madame Fatimetou? From Nouakchott, do we have connection? Okay. Yeah. So nice to have you with us, Madame Fatimetou. It's a really big pleasure. Let me shortly introduce you to the participants. Okay, I introduce Fatimetou Mint Abdel Malik. She has been active in the resilience agenda since 10 years. She was named Making Cities Resilient Champion in 2013. So we look into a leader that has been accompanying and pushing our networks towards more resilience. She's, of course, a very important leader, mainly in her region, because she's president of the region of Nouakchott, after being mayor of Tefrak Sena for several years. And she's also very, very active in UCLG because she's a really pioneering female leader that empowers other leaders to follow the path. And that's why we are so happy to have you with us here today, Madame Fatimetou, and address our community on the importance of going towards action with our work on resilience and your expectation of this rollout strategy UCLG has on resilience. Thank you very much to be with us. The floor is yours.
Merci Sarah, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je suis très heureuse aussi de participer à ce panel extrêmement important, aussi bien pour nos villes que pour notre organisation fêtière CGLI. Merci Sarah, je suis contente que c'est toi qui modère un peu ce panel. Alors, moi j'ai été, si vous voulez, désignée championne pour la résilience par les Nations Unies, par l'UNDRR, parce que justement, je me suis très tôt attelée à des problèmes que connaît ma ville, ma municipalité, et qui m'ont, si vous voulez, éveillée. Ils ont éveillé en moi une envie, j'allais dire, un engagement que je devrais développer, que je devrais exprimer auprès de mes partenaires et auprès de mes citoyens, mes concitoyens, pour qu'on puisse appréhender la problématique de la résilience de manière générale dans ma ville. Alors, ma ville, Nouakchott, pour rappel, est une ville où le désert vient rencontrer la mer. Donc, comme j'ai l'habitude de le dire, c'est un très beau tableau, mais qui comporte extrêmement de vulnérabilité. Donc, il y a une absence de couvert végétal, il y a une construction sur des zones inondables parce que la ville ne s'étale que sur des zones inondables. Et il y a surtout ce qu'on appelle des brèches au niveau de la mer, parce que c'est une ville côtière. Donc, j'ai environ plus de 40 km de frontières avec la mer, de plage, plus de 40 km, et de belles plages aussi. Mais elle constitue un danger parce qu'il y a des ouvertures qui menacent la ville, qui menacent d'une rupture marine, une incursion marine, parce que le niveau de la mer est parfois au-dessus de celui du sol d'1 mètre et 1,50 m. Donc, il y a une menace réelle. Donc, nous avons, pour appréhender cela, nous avons très tôt pris conscience de cela au niveau des élus locaux de Nouakchott, de ma ville, et nous avons entretenu un certain nombre d'activités dans lesquelles on a associé tous les segments des populations, particulièrement les femmes et les jeunes, parce que les femmes sont, si vous voulez, le segment de population les plus vulnérables devant des situations de catastrophe, et les jeunes qui sont la génération d'alternative, la relève, donc ils doivent être eux aussi préparés pour assurer une relève. Donc nous avons associé, mis à contribution ces deux segments de population que sont les femmes et les jeunes, en ciblant des activités prioritaires, par exemple en numérisant toutes les cartes la carte des infrastructures socio-économiques, les points de santé, les écoles, les marchés, donc les points vraiment essentiels, vitaux pour les populations. Nous les avons numérisés et nous les avons mis à la disposition des citoyens. Nous avons aussi entamé des campagnes de nettoiement, de reboisement au niveau justement de la plage pour pouvoir stabiliser le cordon dunaire qui est si vous voulez, très affecté, parce que quand on remonte l'histoire de Nouakchott, quand on remonte un peu, toute Nouakchott a été construite à partir du sable du cordon dunaire. Donc on l'a rendu très faible à cause de ça. On dit souvent que c'est une ville qui tourne le dos à la mer, à la plage, malheureusement. Alors, on a voulu un peu redresser ça. Donc, nous avons reboisé au niveau de ce cordon dunaire des campagnes de reboisement pour le stabiliser parce qu'il est très fragilisé. Nous l'avons nettoyé autant que faire se peut. Et nous continuons d'ailleurs cette activité-là qui est extrêmement difficile. Nous avons aussi, pour rendre la ville un peu conviviale, nous avons créé des espaces, aménager des espaces de rassemblement, des espaces publics où on a mis l'Internet, donc accès à Wi-Fi pour les jeunes. On a même mis des prises pour permettre aux jeunes de se divertir et de pouvoir avoir un lieu de divertissement convivial. Nous avons aussi ciblé dans notre budget une rubrique qui est dédiée aux catastrophes, explicitement aux catastrophes, parce que à travers cette rubrique, nous pouvons aider, par exemple, à des formations, à des campagnes de sensibilisation qui vont à l'endroit de ces deux segments de population que j'avais évoqués, mais aussi à l'endroit de ce qu'on appelle chez nous la protection civile. Protection civile qui est une structure extrêmement importante et qui est appelée à intervenir aux besoins dans des situations complexes comme des situations de désastre ou des situations de stress. Nous avons aussi mené des campagnes de sensibilisation auprès de nos populations pour une prise de conscience, parce qu'on considère toujours que les élus locaux, compte tenu de leur relation avec les populations, compte tenu de la proximité, compte tenu de la relation intime, compte tenu de la parfaite connaissance des défis et des besoins et des problèmes liés au territoire, compte tenu de tout ça, nous considérons que nous sommes mieux placés que quiconque pour être en constante réflexion, pour résoudre les problèmes et surtout pour chercher des solutions pour les problèmes posés par ces populations. Et bien sûr, cela se fait à travers une approche participative en mettant en contribution les populations, en discutant avec eux. Et avec ça, on trouve des solutions qui sont parfois innovantes. Nous avons pour cela aussi élaboré un petit guide très modeste, hein, avec ce qu'on appelle nous les aînés. Les aînés, c'est-à-dire les gens qui ont vécu dans le temps des catastrophes, des situations de détresse, etc. Et quelles étaient les solutions qu'ils avaient envisagées même à la va-vite. Donc nous avons un peu fait un répertoire. Avec tout ça, ça a été parfois extrêmement utile. Nous avons aussi, par ailleurs, aménagé des coins, des poches pour les enfants, mais pour les expositions aussi, pour mettre, si vous voulez, mettre sur table les problèmes que peuvent vivre les populations une fois devant ces catastrophes-là. Donc, en un mot, nous avons, si vous voulez, avec une approche participative, contribué à rassembler un maximum d'informations. Nous avons fait des études aussi sur les éventuelles catastrophes. Nous avons répertorié la plus grande, c'est celle qui est l'incursion marine, mais nous avons aussi, en plus de cela, nous avons ramené au niveau de certains quartiers des services vitaux, des services de base, parce que c'était aussi une nécessité. Donc, nous avons, si vous voulez, un ensemble d'échanges avec ces populations et nous avons trouvé qu'il y a une accumulation d'expériences que nous avons pu traduire, nous, en politique locale et qui ne sont pas nécessairement des connaissances académiques qu'on peut avoir à l'université, etc., et qui ont été toujours utiles. Donc, voilà de façon très ramassée ce qu'on a au niveau de Nouakchott, qui est une ville extrêmement vulnérable, qui est la capitale de la Mauritanie et qui héberge déjà plus d'un tiers de la population de Mauritanie. C'est 1 million, bientôt 400-500 000, en plus du million. Donc, c'est une ville qui a connu un afflux massif des populations du rural vers le centre urbain, à la recherche d'un domaine meilleur. Donc, et ça nous a perturbé, nous, en tant que gestionnaires de l'urbain, parce que la planification urbaine a été un casse-tête, et la fourniture de services en est aussi un. Donc, si vous voulez, c'est un peu une ville très vulnérable, en un mot. Merci. Je suis à l'écoute s'il y a des questions ou des éclaircissements. Merci, Sarah.
Thank you very, very much, Madame Fatimetou, to be with us and also to give us an insight of this eternal task. No? To build a more resilient city takes time and is only possible if the community is with you. I think this you illustrated very well. And second, I would like to say on the local guide, what you mentioned, we have looked at this guide as we have looked at many guides of cities that are really very hands-on, engaged, and are beautiful sources for the global network to create global sources that like the one we will hear from today. And that's why I now go to introduce you to those who will show us and who are behind this global source. For Madame Fatimetou, you will be happy to see many women engaged in the work. So first we will have an introduction to the learning module. So from UNDRR Getty and Juan Carlos Uribe, who is my colleague at the World Secretariat, our focal point for this work. Then we will have an insight of two new partners, Ecological Institute and the Interlace project. Sandra Naumann is speaking to us from Germany. And we will then go to an interactive session where we play with the different solutions of cities, and the name of the game is Renaturing Pathways. And then we have, towards the end, we have reflection from Sandra D'Urso. She is the senior officer for the shelter office at the Red Cross, from Amaya, from UN Habitat, she's a climate and resilience expert, and from last but not least, one of our authors. Our module has two authors, Dr. Ebru Gencer and Borja Iglesias. And with us is today Ebru Genser, and we will be happy to listen a little bit her reaction before we then conclude with our own work with the roadmap to resilience with our colleagues Rodrigo and Firdaus. So the floor now I would like to give to my colleagues to give you a short insight on what the resilience module is, which we launched today.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Yes, my name is Juan Carlos, and I work with Sarah in the learning team at the UCLG World Secretariat. And it's been my pleasure to work with a wonderful team of like partners, stakeholders on developing these resilience learning modules. And we're very happy to present this second one, which builds on the experiences of cities and regions on building strategies and action plans to build resilience. As Sarah was saying, this has been a long ongoing process building on the experiences of our members, on the work that UCLG has been doing on localizing the Sustainable Development Goals, the peer learning, which we have helped us identify good practices from the different cities and regions around the world on disaster risk reduction, climate adaptation, on the role that local and regional government associations can play. This has obviously built on also the policy work that UCLG has been leading in response to the COVID-19 crisis, connecting cities in a live learning experience, which led to the UCLG Decalogue for the COVID-19 aftermath, realizing the importance of integral, holistic approaches that leave nobody and no territory behind. And on the work that for many years, even before the COVID-19 crisis, has been led by the Policy Council on Resilience and Sustainable Cities, which Madame Fatimeto is co-chair of, and the Territorial Prevention and Management of Crisis Task Force, which has led a lot of efforts on solidarity among cities hit by crisis and learning from those experiences. As you know, this is the second of two resilience learning modules. The first one looks at the fundamentals of resilient governance and development. What is the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction? Why it's important for local and regional governments to be taken into account, to be empowered, and how they can integrate DRR and resilience building into their policy cycles. It also looks at the role of local and regional government associations. Today is International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, and the theme for 2021 is the international cooperation for developing countries to achieve disaster risk reduction. And there is a huge role for local and regional government associations to play, as has been seen during the COVID-19 pandemic, through the Solidarity Fund that is led by UCLG's Crisis Task Force. So if you haven't checked it out, if you don't know about it, I invite you to look at the first resilience learning module. But for the rest of the session today, we will be looking at the second one, which we are presenting to you starting today, and which focuses on strategies and actions, as our partner, Mai from the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction Global Training Institute will explain us a little bit more about. Mai, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Juan Carlos. So my name is Mutarika Omai from UNDRR Global Education and Training Institute. It has been a very great pleasure for us to work with UCLG, UN Habitat in developing these modules. And as Juan Carlos was mentioning, that we are now at the volume 2, the second volume of the learning modules. And this module is moving towards more providing the useful information for the local and regional governments, and also the association of local and regional governments to understand the approach and be able to take more concrete actions to reduce risk and take climate actions. And in this volume 2, focusing a little bit more on putting the strategies into the implementation, has 5 chapters altogether. The first one is focusing on this building the local context, the understanding of the local context in terms of stakeholders, sectors, resources, the unique context that each of the city and region is facing. The chapter 2 will focus more on the knowledge and tools that can help the the local government and the regional governments to engage with the communities and leave no one behind, and how the cities can increase the social resilience. Then chapter 3 focused more on the mainstreaming of disaster risk reduction into urban development and land use planning, including also the infrastructure management. Chapter 4 dedicates to providing information on the protecting ecosystem and using nature-based solutions, and taking the regional approach, transboundary approach to protecting ecosystem services. And we will be unpacking this particular chapter later on in the session today. Lastly, in chapter 5, the module will be dedicating to preparation of the effective response and recovery, as well as the Building Back Better, which is very timely for the local and regional governments to take after this COVID-19 pandemic, and also into this decade of action. Next, please. Yes, and these learning modules, both the module 1 and 2, are very exciting modules in my opinion, because it's a flexible, dynamic. You can pick and choose some part of the learning modules to use in training your whoever the city networks, the associations of municipality, and whoever that you are the target audience. It comes with the facilitator's guide, and so can be used as a training of the trainer's approach. And it's very fun to be engaging, because there are a lot of games that helps the trainees to be able to understand much easier the context of all of these conceptual ideas and examples. And because it's built up on the real life experience, it's very easy for the learner to relate to the actual context and be able to bring out the natural exchange and reflections that really support the learning process. It also can be used both offline and online. And we have seen that being rolled out in many parts of the world in the past year, in particularly the learning module 1, and it has been well received by all the learners, both at the regional levels, and some of the rollout we also did at the country level. And it has been a powerful tools that UCLG has been contributing to the Making City Resilient 2030 initiative, and has been using to equip the associations of municipalities and also national government counterparts to understand much more about resilience. And we'll be able to expand that into supporting the cities in the network. And we have many good examples of how the modules have been rolling out in, for example, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, for example. And I'm very excited to see also the continuation of the rolling out of the module in the coming years. Over to you.
Sorry, we have. Okay. Okay. No. Follow. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, yeah, I'll pass the floor back to Juan Carlos.
Okay, so you pass to me. Thank you so much, Mai, to be with us. And sorry for this small problem with sound. You have seen the module, and I think also the work, and Mai stands for it, Juan Carlos stands for it. Many of the we will later listen to Amaya and to the Sandras, but we cannot look into every single piece. So today we have chosen one of the chapters to make this focus on the nature-based solution, because nature-based solution, the same as resilience, is very sounding, and it's a very attractive concept. We listen a lot now for the post-COVID era, but what is it? And how can we work with it? So we have invited one of our partners, Sandra Naumann, to give a little bit the insight. As you will see, and as the module Mai was saying, is a training of trainers approach, you can always see the same slides. So we have different speakers that come with their own experience, with their own wealth. But of course, they use the slides, and these slides we have prepared for you, for all the trainer community, because they stand for a logic behind this module. So, however, behind Sandra is a long and a large experience. She's a senior fellow at the Ecological Institute, and she coordinates biodiversity and nature-based solutions file. So this Ecological Institute is based in Berlin, and she's also coordinating the 2020 project, International Cooperation to Restore and Connect Urban Environments in Latin America and Europe. So this project is called Interlest, and we are also cooperating with her on this. Sandra, please, the floor is yours to give us an insight on nature-based solution before we go to the game.
Thank you very much. And Juan Carlos, thank you for sharing. I think if we can go to the slide. So thanks a lot for inviting me, and congratulations to this fantastic learning module. I see there's a lot of work, and I'm just trying to give a brief introduction, talking about nature-based solution as one tool to build resilience in cities and regions. And you may are not so familiar with the term of nature-based solutions, but you might have been worked with ecosystem-based adaptation or mitigation measures, or you have worked with green or blue infrastructure, or with ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction or natural water retention measures. They are all under the same umbrella, nature-based solutions. So they have the specific characteristics, but what they have in common is they all build on nature and healthy ecosystems. I think that's the crucial point we are talking about. And they are like an alternative to our traditional, more engineered gray solutions that we use usually to cope with specific disasters like flooding, or other challenges that we have. But given the potential of such solutions, not to address one challenge, but multiple challenges at the same time, and also have the potential over the long term to be more cost efficient than others and take a systemic perspective. This is why they're gaining a lot of popularity, I think, over the last 5 years, but it's not a new concept, as some of you probably already know. But just to what we are talking about when we talk those benefits, and you see this really nice scheme that really illustrates that it could be the vegetation that helps us reducing flood risk, but also provides a habitat for biodiversity. And we have plants, trees, and hedges that can store carbon and therefore also contribute to climate change mitigation. And we have parks that provide us with nice green infrastructure that it's for our own human well-being, but also for health. And you can see like healthy ecosystems can provide a lot of services and benefits. And it has been mentioned already, that's also quite important that we have this ecosystem and build with them. And what does it mean if we go to the next slide? I brought 3 examples from 3 cities and regions. If we can, so you can see it could be wetland revitalization, and the picture that you see here, that's a wetland like at the front door of the bigger city in Germany, and has been degraded over time. Nothing was connected, it wasn't working as an ecosystem, so it couldn't deliver anything. So they decided it's an important area for us, like also to secure the water storage for the city, to restore it. And it's a process that's ongoing. It's nothing we could do over a couple of years. But what they already achieved is that they made a contribution to climate change adaptation mitigation. They created a space that's accessible to people, that also like improved a lot the air quality, and also provided more space for biodiversity. And we know there's a biodiversity crisis, so that also contributes to that. The second example is that we have cities and regions which are characterized by industry, but mostly industry that has been shut down because, like in this case, it was a coal mine, and it was just out of time, and then it was closed down a couple of years ago, and then you're left with those constructions. But it's also part of the cultural heritage. So what they did was like thinking about the concept to make it part of the city, but use nature to build with this cultural heritage. And we use the space also, for example, to bring out new startups and new enterprises, also to boost a little bit the economic development in the city after a huge unemployment rate. And you can really see how beautiful it looks. And this is now also being accessed by all the citizens. So it's really accessible for everybody and has multiple benefits. And the last one, green corridors is a quite well-known and knowledge concept. And this was a city you can see was thinking about how can we bring in like nature in a really constructed city with all the blocks. And this is why we came up with a very nice developed green corridor concept that also helps us to cope with stormwater, for example, water management, in addition like to improving human well-being and providing a nice space, and also give back biodiversity, because biodiversity in cities is often higher than, for example, you can find in rural areas. So if we go to the next slide, so we can see there are a lot of benefits that we could harness nature-based solutions, but of course it's not so easy, because this multifunctionality which those approaches come with, they also require that we work outside our used silos. So we need to work across departments and cross sectors in the different governments. And I see many cases where it's not the case yet, because it's so difficult, because we're growing up with the structures and the structures are there, and it's difficult to have a shared responsibility. But that's one of the things that we need to change and to work on. The same also comes across talking about cross-sectoral approaches. We need more integrated planning, not just thinking alone about nature-based solutions, but all the different angles and benefits that comes with them. And that also requires us, not just to think, if we live in a city, we shouldn't stop at the border of the city. There's a urban area and there's a rural area, and they're all connected. Ecosystems, they don't stop at the front, at the border of the city. They really go across, and this is so important to keep that into account, as well as thinking nature-based solution in a network, what's already done by green and blue infrastructure, so that they have an even bigger impact. And as it's a new process, of course, we need to build capacities. Some regions, cities already have good knowledge, but there's still a lot of capacity to build. And I think this tool, it's really a really great opportunity to do this something, because we've been working a long time with the traditional solutions, but now we can also think about maybe how can we combine this with the green, or foster more green solutions which have more benefits. And with this, we also have to think about financing. It's always an issue, I know, not just for implementing, but also for maintaining the space, and knowing that public sources usually are quite limited. We have to explore partnerships with private investors, private actors, because it's not just citizens, if everybody can benefit from such solutions. And what has been mentioned already, in the case of Nouakchott, it's the citizens that are really important to integrate in those processes. They have this participatory process, as we heard in the opening remarks. It's nature for people. So that means we have to listen, what are the needs? What should be integrated into planning? What might be trade-offs we consider with nature? So we need to ensure the social equality, justice, and be inclusive, and also really promote their good ideas. There are so many good ideas coming from bottom up, not from the top-down government, and those needs to be fostered and also be really supported over the long term. And the last slide, there's a wonderful example you will find in the guidance from the city of Puerto Rico in Ecuador, which was hit 5 years ago by an earthquake. And a lot of area construction has been destroyed during this earthquake. And also people died. And this was also a momentum. Why on the one hand you had a disaster, the city also took it as an opportunity to think about reshaping the city and really build a resilience strategy and a pathway to that. And this is why they came up with the Puerto Rico River Master Plan. And this was really aiming not just to recreate or to find more opportunities for economic reactivation in the city, but also think about the flood risk reduction coming from the river and have this environmental recovery, but also creating places for people. So, and I was really amazed. In only 3 years, the city really managed to create this wonderful Las Vegas park, which you can see in the photo here, for $11 million US, and it's almost I think 11 hectares large. By 3 years, it's an amazing time. So it means achievement. And what they did was, and here the case to work with the term ecosystem-based climate change adaptation, but they worked with nature. So what they did, they reclaimed the riverbanks, which had no function, and turned them into flood zones. They also restored previous wetlands so that it could function again, stormwater retention ponds, but also being a habitat for biodiversity. as well as like removing landfills, just to make, like to bring the ecosystem back to work. So this restoration process, in the end, you can see beautiful park that really like provides a space, not just for the environment, for biodiversity, but most of all also for people. And with these words, I would like to close here and really looking forward to the game.
Thank you very much, Sandra. This was very insightful and inspiring, because of course, when we listen to you, nature-based solution is such a nice concept, convincing everybody. But actually, when we see the example, this gives a lot of hope. So from Nouakchott to Porto Viejo, if we make this look in towards the background in your picture, no, we can imagine so many territories, and now the nature feel as a major ally. And maybe the pandemic, this has confirmed the willingness of people and the need of people for nature. So how can we use this opportunity altogether? When we look at this concept, it sounds that everything works, but of course there is a difference. And my colleague Juan Carlos will lead you now through an interactive activity where we can imagine the nature-based solution, what it means and what it means in the different cities. So we have chosen some cities, and we go for a little game with you. Juan Carlos, could you help us towards the next step?
Thank you very much, Sarah. Yes, indeed. So one thing is it's listening about the potential of nature-based solutions, and another one is actually kind of discussing them and talking about them and seeing how they can be adapted and implemented in different situations. So this game, which is part of the second resilience learning module, it's aiming at triggering those discussions and those reflections among participants. So we will have 3 groups. And what we will, what you would need to do within each of your groups, it's read the challenges which are confronted by 4 example cities that we have chosen. Each small group will be assigned 4 nature-based solution cards. So 4 solutions that you could possibly implement. And you have to discuss which of those solutions matches better with the city challenges that you are confronted with. The cards are assigned at random, so you have to look at the context, the different territorial environment around the city, the challenges that they confront, and as a group make those decisions and match the 4 cards with the 4 city challenges. You do have the opportunity to use a joker card, so if you see that one of the solutions just doesn't match one of the cities, you can come out, bring your own experience and bring out a solution of your own for one of the city challenges. We will have 10 minutes for this. So the breakout rooms, once we open them, they will close in 12 minutes. So those 2 extra minutes just to give you some space to decide on like how to facilitate the session. And you will need to present one of those matches, the one that you think is the best match between a city challenge and one of the solutions that was assigned to your group. We will invite you to present them after we come back to the plenary. So please decide who will present it and which specific match between city and solution you would like to present. We have less people than we were expecting. So we would have group 1 with Sara as a facilitator, group 2 with Prachi, and the rest of the people will remain in the main room with Valeria. Valeria, please use group 3 because it's in English. But if you don't speak English, we would have interpretation to French and Spanish in the main room. But please, Valeria, use group 3 because it's going to be easier for most people. Okay, so the facilitators will show you this. And once you go in there, I forgot we needed to look at this also. These are the 4 cities which each group will have. So just to save time for each of the groups. So Kombolcha, it's an area where rainfall is increasingly scarce between the Sahara and the African savanna. Many communities in the area suffer from drought and desertification, leading to large-scale migration and conflict among inhabitants in the region. So this is Kombolcha. You will be able to read this once you go into the group, but just to give you an overall view. Milan is one of the cities with the most air pollution in Europe. In addition, every summer heat waves are intensified, significantly increasing the mortality rate among its citizens. We have Farellones, a village in the Chilean Andes located in a high-risk area for landslides and avalanches in the winter. In addition, climate change is increasingly reducing the ski season, directly affecting the tourism sector, which it depends on. And last, we have Miami, one of the most exposed cities facing wave erosion and flooding during hurricane and storm seasons. In addition, sea level rise due to climate change will severely affect its population in the coming years. So these are just 4 sample cities from around the world with different contexts, which you will have to look into. Now, let me see if everything is ready. Yes, okay. I'll open the breakout rooms and I'll see you back in 12 minutes then. Where are you? Here, okay. There you go.
Hello, hello. So everyone staying in this plenary room will be part of group 3, correct? All right, so I'm going to share my screen and we will start the dynamic as Juanca has explained. If you guys need clarification on the cities again, feel free to let me know. So we have Kombolcha, Milano, Farellones, and Miami, as Juanca has explained, and our cities, our nature-based solutions given are the following. So we have soil and water bioremediation, which detoxifies hazardous substances in a cost-effective and less disruptive manner. Or park creation and management, which reduces urban heat with cooler areas and act as biofilters for air pollution. River and wetland naturalization, which reduces flood risks by restores biodiversity and establishes new recreation spaces. Hillside restoration and replanting, so that reduces stream water saltiness, landslide risk reduction, and erosion control. We also have the Joker card in case any of these you don't see fit for any of this. So we should start with soil and or water bioremediation. Who would like to administer one of these nature-based solutions to one of these challenges? Any volunteers?
Maybe for Milano, because it's very polluted.
All right. If everyone agrees, we'll keep Milano. Right?
Okay, I see we have the other one too, the park creation for air pollution. Yes. Can we look at all and then match them better?
Yeah. They're right
I think the park creation would work better. May work for Milan because it has both extreme heat plus air pollution. So I think the park creation and management would work for Milan.
Excellent. Okay, I will attach it to Milano.
Great.
How about river and wetland naturalization, flood risk reduction, biodiversity restoration, and establishment of recreation spaces? Which challenge does it solve better?
Can you go over what were the problems in Kombolcha?
Sure. Kombolcha is rainfall, and many communities in the area suffer from drought and desertification. Also, they have a large-scale migration and conflict among their inhabitants.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I feel maybe the soil and the water remediation, bioremediation fits more with that of the Ecological because of the yes, and then yes. No, sorry, about Milano because of the pollution, and then we interchange the park creation management with that of the Ecological is interchanged with each other. Because this one, the Ecological, which is basically in the African sector, is maybe facing much of a, let's say, the drought and then also heat due to most of the pollution.
So what you're suggesting is to have park creation and management to Kombolcha and soil and water bioremediation to Milano.
Yes.
Okay. Does everybody agree, or is there a little discussion we should be having?
Well, if there is drought in Kombolcha, perhaps the park creation will not work there. So that's my thinking, because the rainfall is scarce. So then it would be problematic to have park creation.
Okay.
But maybe Sandra would know this better.
I was also thinking, it's like if you're a scarcity of water, you would do anything, I think, to like first of all, how you can get drinking water. So so I don't know, but I don't know, you didn't say anything about erosion, but if this reduce the stream water saltiness, I just know from other countries that they use also something to desalinize the water to make it use. I don't know if that's because the others that are here doesn't really fit. But I'm not sure of the hillside restoration, because landslides also implies that you have sometimes a lot of water coming down that takes just the soil away. So
I think the Chilean city had the landslide issue, the Farellones. So we can.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah. Let's put the hillside restoration and replanting to Farellones.
Okay.
And because Miami has the sea level rise, right? It's exposed to sea level rise. Maybe we can do the wetland. I don't know exactly the geography, whether they have wetlands or not, but it's the only one that would work for floods, right?
Yeah, they don't have river or wetlands, so that's what I was thinking that definitely they need like coastal coastal work, but they don't have river and wetlands.
Remember, you guys also have a joker
reduction.
The joker card.
Remember, you have a joker card to suggest another solution. So maybe if there's no, like if soil and water bioremediation or river and wetland renaturalization do not fit either Kombolcha or Miami, you can use a joker card to suggest something else.
Miami is also prone to increased heat waves. So, no, it's not mentioned there, but it is both dealing with wave erosion, flooding, storm, and heat waves.
I think what you would have to do is creating flood zones along the beach. So you need like really like unbuilt areas close to the water that can at least like retain some of the flooding that's coming from the sea rise. So bringing back natural space and don't have the buildings next to the water, but not sure because the others are, there's one with flood risk reduction, but it's quite generic. So, and then also the recreation spaces where I think Miami probably would have this, but I only been there once, so can't really tell.
So we have 3 minutes left. So is there any solutions that fit better Kombolcha or Miami out of this two, or do we use a joker card?
Can we look at
yeah, maybe I'm sorry, Sandra. I think we could still do that flood risk reduction in Miami in the biodiversity restoration, but I think it's just the title maybe doesn't fit so well, renaturization, but otherwise, in general terms, I think flood risk reduction and biodiversity restoration would work for Miami.
Okay, perfect. So then,
and the Joker card, we can put it to Kombolcha maybe, because
okay.
we don't have anything that deals with intense drought.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would need something where I think I just saw it from, Chile in the desert. I'm not sure it's a nature-based solution, to be honest, but they have like nets in the desert where they can catch the water through the night. So they somehow can harness it's not rain, but this is one of the techniques like that we do exploring. But I think if for the scarcity, I don't know what other people have such suggestions, what we could put on the Joker card for Kombolcha.
Yeah. Well, maybe then we can use your suggestions on that, and if there's no other options.
Maybe if you could cover over it just to see what the problem is. I guess there are certainly people in the room who have a lot of good ideas what could be a good solution to that.
So as a reminder, this Kombolcha suffers from drought and desertification, large-scale migration, and conflict among their inhabitants. So and we're using the Joker card to suggest another solution that is not soil and water bioremediation because it doesn't fit so well. We also only have a couple of minutes left. So if maybe we can't find a solution, an appropriate Joker card solution other than Sandra's suggestion, I would encourage then for us to choose someone who will present this in the plenary, and for presenting our best match based on the challenge and the nature-based solution that we are proposing. So if there's any volunteers, Ebru, Aura, Chukwuma.
Not me. I'll be speaking short anyway.
That's correct. Thank you.
Sure.
Just one thing, of course, could also be done with certification is to see you need to, because the soil is plank, but of course there are also plants who can sometimes cope with that conditions. And as a farmer, and if people live from farming, it's quite important to cover the soil with plants so that they can somehow use the soil, knowing of course there's less water, but that's of course water scarcity and droughts. We're facing it everywhere, but also replanting with adequate plants could be also the solutions to that.
Okay, so then Aura, would you like to present our solution, or Sandra, would you like?
I think Sandra, right? Sandra said she.
Yeah, that's always a problem if you talk too much. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So we're all set. Remember, it's just gonna be one solution that we present to the entire group. Thank you so much for participating, and this was a very good dynamic between you.
And Valerie, you will present the other three, or what? How does
no, it's just gonna be one per group.
Okay. Yeah. But does it mean, do we have to present the others, or just like our Joker card? Sorry.
No, just one. Just choose one, and that's it.
Hello, welcome everyone. I think everyone is back now. Hope it wasn't too abrupt, but I think I was jumping around and most of the groups had already been finalizing their matches. So yeah, the idea with this game is as part of a training with participants from different city departments to basically get familiar with nature-based solutions and discuss from the different expertise, responsibilities, how do those nature-based solutions adapt to different realities. It's certainly a very simplified game, but let's hear, I know that there has been discussions about whether it's really the best fitting or everything, but let's hear from you what were the best matches that you had. So let's start with Valeria, because you were already here in the plenary room. So Valeria's group, I think it was gonna be Sandra who's gonna share their best match.
Yeah, I think there was a common agreement on Milano Paralelos in Miami, and we were just wondering in Cambodia we couldn't find an adequate card, so we were wondering what to do in Cambodia, like seeing they have desertification and water scarcity and drought. So we're wondering if maybe not like entirely nature-based solution, but could have like working with a harnessing water technology, making use of water that comes through the night, and it's already tested in some areas around the world. But also if they could plant different plant species that can cope with this really like tough like conditions. It could be like specific trees, but also agriculture products. If farming is also like a major activity there, and it will most of all then help the soil to recover to a certain extent and to cover the soil and prevent it from further degradation.
Great, thank you very much. So yeah, like climate adapted agriculture and then land restoration techniques. So it is one of the cards, not one of the ones that was given to your group, but climate adapted agriculture is one of the nature-based solutions that we pick up. So it's good to see it brought up by the participants as well. Let's go now to Sarah's group, who would be presenting from your side.
Sandra.
The other Sandra.
The other Sandra.
I think that's me. From Sandra to Sandra. Yes, I think that we got the card for our location. If you can put up on screen, maybe our cards.
Sarah, could you share the screen?
Or maybe not. I mean, from what I remember, we used 3 out of 4 cards as well, and we used 1 joker, but in another city. Indeed, so we found the card around community gardens and urban agriculture adapted to Cambodia, because it allowed, of course, more food security, community engagement, and if desertification and soil impoverishment related issues were the issue here, we found that card was good. Then we went on to Farallones, where we thought if the issue is indeed soil erosion, landslides, and the fact that there was a risk of focusing all on tourism, this card could play the idea that there was more diversification of income for the city, or one is more of a smaller town, and the reduction of soil erosion here.
Thank you. I'm going to stop you before you go to other cities, just because of time, because we only have time for 1 match per group.
Okay.
So,
okay, 1 match per group. Okay, we use our joker card somewhere else. So we still used it.
But yeah, you have the 2. The one with Cambodia, very similar to the previous group, and then forest management in a more integral, like holistic way, also looking into like economic activity connected to that for Farallones.
And we got the cooling centers as joker card with the green corridors. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry that we cannot have time for all of the joker solutions, but let's go to the 3rd group. That was Prachi's group, who would be presenting from your side.
So from its group 2, and from our side, I nominate Amaya.
I cannot hear you.
Hello, it's group 2, and from our side, Amaya would be presenting.
Okay.
Do I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Amaya, go for it.
Briefly explain, because we have a lot of time. We think that almost all the solutions are partial, so they will not solve the problem, and that perhaps we need more a background of the complex problem of the city to fit the right solution. And yes, perhaps well, in Cambodia, we decided to go for the promotion of awareness within citizens and to
No,
Really,
I think
let me know that
we lost you there for a second. But yeah, before you continue, just select the best match, the one that you think is the best match between a solution and the city challenge, and introduce that one.
Okay, no, I was talking about Kombolcha, and in such extreme situation, it's not enough. But yes, promoting awareness in citizens and adequate water supply for everybody.
Thank you very much. Okay, so yes, I think as Samaya was mentioning, there's definitely not, although we do call them nature-based solutions, they are not the solution to the challenge or the problems. There are solutions that can be integrated within and strategy and action plans. But instead of just presenting the module, we wanted to show you some of the exercises that have been developed through it. We hope you enjoy it. Of course, this is usually accompanied by 2-3 days workshop with presenting different case studies, looking at them more in detail with specific city examples, and then connecting this with the other chapters of the module to bring a more holistic view on the role of social resilience, the role of urban development, the role of preparation and recovery plans. So all of this together is what makes this second module focus on strategies and actions. What we think it's like a very encompassing tool to discuss resilience building and disaster risk reduction with cities and regions. We have already used the first one very broadly, as Mai was saying, and we hope that this one is also used. But yeah, so this is kind of the second part of the session, which I'm going to give back to Sarah, but to actually discuss how these 5 chapters all together with the exercises, the dynamics, the debates, and these examples from cities that all of the partners, including UN Habitat, UNDRR, UCLG, has been looking into more in depth, can be used to scale up resilience activities, capacity building activities for local and regional governments. So Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Juan Carlos, and thank you all for playing with us. And yeah, maybe if we see in Nouakchott, the solution Madame Fatimetou provided us in the beginning was also quite coherent and would fit in a good nature-based solution card. No? So as Juan Carlos said, this gives you an idea that we, of course, we work with a lot of inspiration from practices, but it is never that one meets all. So it is just an inspiration. Of course, there are numerous nature-based solutions, and the Joker cards are probably a very important way to look forward and nurture our reflections as it has happened just now. So to go ahead in our session, we would like to ask for some reflections from partners. So first, you have already met her, Sandra de Urso, and she is our well, not yet a really partner, so we have not that much work together yet, but we look very much forward to working more with the Red Cross and the platform. And Sandra is a focal point for shelter risk reduction and recovery and post-disaster operation and shelter programs in Africa and MENA regions of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Society. So she also leads an urban collaboration platform which aims to strengthen knowledge and operational skills of Red Cross National Society in complex urban settings. She's an architect, she already said, and has a lot of experience on humanitarian disaster response, and she's also a lecturer. So Sandra, of course, you are really full of experience of, I think the Red Cross is also a very important inspiration for us. You work very much pedagogically. What would be your feedback to this process and to the resilience work? Floor is yours to give us a little bit of insight.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And yeah, thank you for getting me to this audience of, I would say, yes, maybe partners in the making would be the word, and definitely like-minded organizations. Where do we come from? Of course, I think the voice that we can add to the chorus is the humanitarian perspective, right? I mean, we do claim that we are one of the biggest community-based DRR actors. Definitely we work in cities, but also a lot in rural environments, which are the place from which people move to cities with the triggers that we know of. And of course, we do that with the boots on the ground with, every time I mention it, 13 million volunteers worldwide is quite a substantial capacity down there to build, of course, to reduce the risks at community level, protect people, prepare for emergencies, and also really build more resilience communities from the bottom up. So we do live, I would say, also a bit of the tension always, because we still have to work on building resilience in the most remote places, you know, the hard to reach ones, the last mile ones. But increasingly, we have, and our moral obligation is to work in cities. That's where the highest concentration of risks and vulnerability is, and what we also call the everyday risk, not the ones that hit the headlines of the CNN. It's the everyday vulnerability and the everyday risks in slums, in difficult places. And it is for us, in that sense, if there is still a tension between where should we focus our work, it also has to do with our mandate and the auxiliary role that we do have to support municipalities, to support local governments, not only in public health, which we're known for, but in building community resilience there. So adding value and adding to your networks is also where we must find ways to do more than, you know, adding our pieces and coming with our niche of work. I had 3 reflections, and of course, triggered by the exercise we have just done. I would start by saying that if environmental, you know, degradation and climate change leads to humanitarian crisis that we see, first of all, we must have the obligation to respond in ways that also contribute to solving the environmental issues, right? I mean, we have internal processes and we're adjusting those to look at greening our response modes from, you know, procuring goods from A to B, prepositioning, making sure that we do not contribute to that cause as well. Institutional greening and greening, as I said, the response. We have entry points, of course, working in specific cities with national societies, coastal cities. We work on heat waves. We've seen it now, floods and heat waves. That's the kind of perfect combination these days. Displacement to cities and following migrants on their journey from city to city. So of course, these entry points are where we can start looking really more digging deeper when disaster hits on how to recycle materials, how to make sure that we can rehabilitate neighborhoods in ways that are conducive to gaining more public space. For instance, the example of Sandra brought me back in Ecuador 5 years ago, in that indeed we did respond. and that time, you know, city planning and zoning were probably not talked about there, but I'm really happy to see that first days in which we tried to promote more around spatial ideas and ideas of a coastal city that was badly damaged could then be an opportunity, an accelerator for that. So I think if disasters generally are a setback, a setback in the growth of cities, notably, they can act as accelerators and at moments in which we can pave the path to safer cities as well. And I'm seeing it across the world in different initiatives. You put out of the 4 cities, one is in my home country in Italy. And yes, indeed, there is numerous initiatives in Milano looking at what citizens want as well to do with the no traffic or no car free zones after COVID. And these are reclaimed spaces back for the community. Other cities that you mentioned, of course, come to my mind as well in work that we are doing in anticipation as well. And using the ability to forecast what could happen. So the triggers and finding new ways on anticipatory action. That's a very important one for us these days, because the top 50 cities that are going to be at risk are no longer a mystery. I mean, we know which ones we are repetitively working on, and the ones that are prone to extreme weather conditions, or the ones that are in low-lying areas. So that's predictable work, that predictable efforts that we can, where we can add value in finding solutions along with communities and being a bit the interface between the authorities and facilitating those dialogues. When I saw your cards, I was also amazed, because we have been on a journey to work on an urban action toolkit ourselves. And that toolkit also declines the way that you're looking at nature-based solutions. It has creative communication, urban agriculture, urban early warning systems, and livable cities as some of the modules of this urban action toolkit. And we are trying to promote those mainly through work with schools, school safety, for instance, because they're very much aimed as well at simulation, looking at examples and making sure that those are conducive to, as you made, reflections and action that are, we would say, low cost, a bit do it yourself, and definitely the kind of the ones that rely on existing skills and knowledge in communities. So those, this set of the Urban Action Toolkit is something where we could really work on together if you're doing it with local authorities, and our perspective would be kickstarting more work with youth in cities as well, and the humanitarian education angle in schools. That's something where we can play each other complementarities and synergies. I found, or at least there's a lot of thinking along those same lines and in finding solutions. So all in all, I mean, I think where we can add value to this is really the bottom-up work that we are doing it, but as humanitarians, definitely we cannot address this alone. We are finding our space, especially in the response capacity and the resilience building with our 192 national societies of the Red Cross, but we wish to do that with others. I think I chose a phrase that I saw from the Cities Alliance that it resonated with me. It's adapting cities to climate change will require innovation, creativity, experimentation, but above all, partnerships. And I think that's one that for us is at the forefront of the upcoming work in cities.
Thank you.
I will leave it here because I know there's other speakers as well, but thank you so much for this. And it has prompted a lot of reflection on our side. Looking forward for more.
Thank you very much, Sandra, for these insights. And also, I think our next speaker, Amaya, she will really be able to look on this predictability. She's really a future thinker, and I'm very happy to have you with us, Amaya. She works with us in this module for a longer time. So we can say actually since the beginning, because all this story is built up in a partnership with UN Habitat Resilience Program, but she's also working for humanitarian aid and civil protection of the European Commission, and as an evaluator for European Commission program Horizon in Resilient, Secure Society and Sustainable Matters since 5 years. And Amaya is also host working from Barcelona, so we really see each other often, and she's a little bit the voice towards the future and looking into the future. So Amaya, would you like to make some point?
I will try. Thanks for the nice presentation, and thanks to Sandra. Very nice to listen to your words. So I will try to be brief because I know Ebru is coming after me, and we are running out of time. First, I will put the focus on resilience as a work field that fills the gap between humanitarian and sustainability paths. So this is very, very important. I know that sometimes resilience and sustainability could be a bit contradictory when we are working on humanitarian actions, but I think resilience is here precisely to fill this gap, and we need to use this concept to support the people that is in need of help, but also to think while supporting them about how to build the paths for sustainability. So between the leaving no one behind of the Sustainable Development Goals and this humanitarian principle of do no harm, we have to make a balance and do no harm to people, do no harm to the planet. Now I think it's clearer than ever. My second reflection, it's about knowledge. And this great module is here to also fill this gap. We need to know more about our possibilities. We need to know more about what other institutions, colleagues, cities are doing. Cities, of course, because precisely today we are thinking about urban actions. And it's very good to know that other institutions are also working in urban action toolkits and are thinking in the urban settings, because it's the big challenge if we want the cities to be the solution and not the problem. So knowledge and with knowledge also, I think we need to balance between traditional knowledge and technology, because sometimes when, for instance, when we think in circular economy, some of this knowledge is from our grandmothers. So it's just relearn things that we have forgotten. Now I am also working in a project in Baia Mare in Romania, and I didn't know, for instance, that the roots of some trees can clean the soil from heavy metal contamination. So there are magic nature-based solutions that are there, and we need to know them to apply them in these degraded environments that we are used to working with. And really to sift from the crisis and transform the crisis into an opportunity, we need to be ambitious. I would like to go beyond the climate adaptation and mitigation. I know we have no funds, we have no resources, we are in a new pandemic and economic, not even crisis, but era. It's because this is going the normal for a long time, but we need to be ambitious. So beyond adaptation and mitigation, I think we need to revert the harm that we have done to people and to the planet. So please don't lose this ambition. And my third and last reflection is about the stakeholders, because to build resilience and to build social resilience, we need to count on them. We need to understand them, and we need to analyze how they can be tractor elements for resilience. As for let's call them more powerful ones, as for means, budget or expertise, and also to bring the invisible stakeholders to light when it comes to this kind of solutions that are going to build resilience. And just to end, let's also not to forget that resilience is not a condition, it's a state. So it's not about only be resilient, it's about keep being resilient through time.
Thank you very much, Amaya. This was insightful, and before looking into the next, rounding up this Ebru, maybe I would like to highlight the points you said on the knowledge and the education. Of course, we are totally open for working more with schools to look a little bit more on the traditional knowledge, the technology at the same time. And I think it's very important when we listen to the conference, these big conferences, we see the enormous call to action, and then when we go, who is in the end doing it? No, and it's not only students, it's a lot of teachers who roll out in the communities, who are leaders, who make a very important angle. So for us and our local governments, this is an important point we will of sure be happy to take up also together. I think it's very nice to share also the Red Cross tools in the chat. Now we have, of course, for education, we have here Professor Ebru. She is one of our authors of this module and also the first module. And she is also a well-known person in the UN and in the Making Cities Resilience campaign, because there she also has been author for the implementation of the Sendai Framework Guide. So she's also architect, planner, and works at the Columbia University, and has gone with us through this very long journey, Ebru. And of course, here we are. So how do you see it's rolling out? I see you are packing, maybe you're back in Barcelona. Let us know. You are in family. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you for the introduction. And yes, it's been a long journey, as you said, and it's really a pleasure to be here today for the launch. That all of this work has come together with all the partners that you and Johan and Amai and others have mentioned. As you know, it had started as a small discussion of a small project about 2 years ago, and it has evolved into this large and comprehensive 2 volumes. I'd also like to put down a few notes, because I was thinking that the launch of the module during this conference, Innovate for Cities conference, and especially during the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, was also meaningful. I had attended the predecessor to this conference, the IPCC Cities in Edmonton, Canada, in 2018, and I've seen the research to action agenda evolving in the last 3 years. The agendas, the disaster risk reduction and the climate change adaptation agendas, which were running parallel to each other, in a way have evolved to marry and focus on resilience building to all stresses and shocks, and to localize implementation strategies as this module provides. So in light of this alignment, global focus on resilience and ecological transformation, and as Amaya and you have mentioned, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, I think this module could not have come at a better time. Because this module argues for the need for this systems-based and inclusive resilience thinking, which can observe and analyze local and territorial contexts in their entirety, with their multi-stakeholders, sectors, and urban elements. Therefore, the module did not only discuss spatial strategies for resilience in this module, such as urban planning and design and nature-based solutions, but also social, economic, cultural, institutional elements, which are naturally part of societies and thus should be discussed as part of the resilience agenda. I should also relate that the strategies that we have put forward in the module are not inclusive, which means that the module was not intended to be a normative guidebook, but rather it discusses processes, sectors, and stakeholders to start a discussion on the systems-based resilience thinking. However, the module also provides several references and resources if one would like to delve more into a given strategy or an interest area. So the module also discusses, we also looked in the module, the territorial context as a whole, stressing the necessity to think about the linkages and the interactions between the many parts from urban to semi-urban and rural areas, and how they influence and complement one another towards resilience. Of course, then, the role of multi-level governance and local and regional governments and their associations cannot be overstated to implement this model, this agenda in alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals. Local and regional governments and their associations, as you, Sarah, have pointed out, and Madame Fatimatu have pointed out, they can raise awareness and advocate for the resilience agenda, bridge the gaps in governance, liaise and learn from stakeholders, and involve them in all phases of resilience building. Again, there were several examples to that today, and increase capacities. And they can also monitor the implementation of actions for modification and realignment if needed. So we have already observed the many ways local and regional governments and their associations have worked during the COVID-19 pandemic, sometimes stepping in when national governments fail to do so. So the role of local and regional governments are very crucial during the COVID-19 recovery process as well. Where, again, several crises compound, as Amaya just mentioned, economic, health, infrastructure, nature, and climate, which then requires this systems-based, multifaceted, and inclusive resilience thinking, which this module tries to stress. So this type of thinking can then allow for recovery in alignment with Building Back Better, and transforming societies for more equitable and more sustainable futures. So I've been very happy to be part of this module. Thank you again for inviting me to be a part of it. And congratulations to UCLG and all the other partners who have been involved in the module. And I'm sure that it will be successfully rolled out and reach out to many different regions, local and regional governments, and stakeholders.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Ebru, for reminding that the module and all the work is not, we have now only seen one piece, no? The nature-based solution is only one piece, of course, and I think it has been also reminded before by Sandra, by others, that where is the main work is the work with the communities, and this entails a lot of other areas, and I think you have highlighted them well. So now we are coming to close, and we have just only 5 minutes left. Thank you for the interpreters to stay with us 5 minutes, but these 5 minutes we want to use to look into this work from a policy perspective. We have invited one of our colleagues who is working, coordinating the policy file on resilience, and will give us some final reflection. Rodrigo, I think you are with us.
I am, Sarah. Thank you very much. First of all, let me congratulate you and all the colleagues that have been involved in the second module. It's really amazing work. So resilience in UCLG is becoming each time more a cross-cutting issue in the sense that we are approaching it in different ways. I think there are several lessons that we have learned from the pandemic that are very valuable. The first one is that we have been talking about resilience for many years, but now we added this sense of urgency that we really need to go after that, to really move to action. And we also learned that when we talk about resilience, and I think several of the colleagues explained that before, we are talking much more about than disaster risk reduction or just addressing eventual episodes. We are really talking in regards to our constituency on the capacity that local and regional governments have to endure crisis, to respond to crisis, to make sure that their citizens are properly, with the proper structure and making sure all their needs are met. So that's why I very much enjoyed the second module, because we also consider resilience on this more expanded concept that talks a lot about social resilience, that, for example, checks the different impacts of the crisis on the different social segments, on women, on low-income communities. And it also relates to how, for example, local service provision became a fundamental tool, including to respond to crisis. So more than ever, during periods of instability and distress, we need to make sure that all the people, and especially the most vulnerable, have adequate access to public services. This is a little bit the narrative that we are building in UCLG. We want to look, I think it was Sandra indeed that was mentioning, we need to make sure that the capacities of all the different kinds of cities are being met. We had last week the Forum of Intermediary Cities, where resilience was in the agenda. We are going to have next month the Forum of Regional Governments. Resilience is always going to be a building block. So that's why we feel that resilience needs to be present at the new social pact that needs to be developed, that UCLG is calling the Pact for the Future. This is going to be launched next year in UCLG World Congress in October in Daejeon. And this is composed by main 3 pillars, which is people, planet, and government. And we think that for really sustainable, inclusive resilience, we need to bring together all these three elements. Towards that process, we are launching what we call the Town Hall, which is bringing together partners, including colleagues that are here, but also doing consultations with members to really lay out what would be the main principles and the main aspects that we should need to include in this pact regarding resilience. So thank you very much for the opportunity, Sarah. We are definitely looking forward to continue working with all of you, and we stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. So I think this is a clear message that you, our partners, are welcome to work on all these levels. We are now at the end of the session. In the future, we will roll out, because we are going with these modules to all our regional sections, and we have an incredible demand of cities and of networks in particular, because we, of course, do not train individual cities. But we hope that you can be with us in this journey as you have been up to now. And we are also converting this module into an online module, fully online, so a massive open online course, equally playful and fun, as we hope is this module for you. So thank you so much for coming, and let's stay connected in the future. You know where we are, and just reach out. Goodbye. And thank you very much for Juan Carlos for getting all this together. I think it was quite a work to coordinate this session.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Au revoir.